All right, boys. Welcome to today's video. All right, so I don't want to alarm you guys before this video gets started, but just wanted to warn you guys, I will be wearing shoes for this video because I broke my toe. I know it's a little out of the ordinary. So today I have a part install on the Mustang for you guys. I know you guys love these, and so do I. They're really fun. What we got in this box here is from BMR Suspension. A good friend of mine on Instagram, I'll put his Instagram down here, donated this part for free to the build actually, so shout out to him, big thank you. Let's get this open. What we got here are some BMR lower control arm brackets, but these brackets are going to mount to our rear axle. What they're going to do is they're going to correct the rear suspension geometry. Since this car has been lowered, the suspension geometry has been incorrect since it's lowered. The way these cars work, the suspension geometry is only really proper when it's pretty much monster trucking in the rear, because these cars weren't designed to be low. They don't function well low. So BMR makes this lower control arm bracket that's going to correct that geometry. We got the two brackets here. Let's see what else came in the box. Looks pretty simple. We just got some hardware. Yeah, that's it. So this should be a pretty simple install. Before I get ahead of myself and start installing this, I'm gonna go ahead and do a baseline test of how the traction on this Mustang handles with the poor suspension geometry. Once we get a little into the install, I'll be able to show you better how the suspension geometry works and why this will benefit your suspension. Let's just go do a little baseline and see how the car is before we install the brackets. But as you can see, this car is quite low, and so if anyone is in need of geometry correction, it's this one. And we are on some pretty shot tires. We're on some Kenda drift spares that I've been using, so not expecting the most out of this. But who knows, maybe after we install these brackets, we'll be surprised at what the Kendas can do. Got a little limp from, oh no. Oh, I got crutches in here still. I hope my broken toe doesn't affect my ability to launch this car right now, because it is my big toe on my clutch foot that's broken, but we must proceed. These control arm brackets are only really going to affect me in straight line acceleration, and I think the best way to test this right now is just to go do some test launches, see how much it spins, see how much the rear suspension separates, if any at all. Honestly, I don't think it's going to with the suspension geometry that it has right now, because it is pretty poor at the ride height I'm at. But yeah, let's just go do a test launch real quick and see what she does. We're gonna make a quick little road trip to the drag strip out in Mexico. Probably gonna take a couple hours, so I'll just jump cut to getting there. All right, now we're pulling up to Mexico, the little drag strip here, and as far as predictions go for this baseline test, I'm pretty sure it's just gonna spin all the way through first gear. All that, you know, all that 3-valve horsepower, all that horse pressure this 3-valve's making, I don't think these Kendas with without the traction arms are gonna be able to plant the power. We'll see in a second. I'll do 2 hits. The first one, tires are gonna be cold, so it's probably not gonna hook. Second one, hopefully the burnout from the first will have warmed them up enough to get it to hook a little bit. All right, I don't have the 2-step anymore, so we're not gonna be able to launch her off the 2-step. yeah, just a burnout. Pretty much what I expected. Let's try it again. Maybe the tires are a little hotter on this one. I'm not expecting much though. Probably gonna be about the same. Yep. Little better, but still a burnout. Ooh. Wheel hopped her a little bit there. All right, let's get out of here. There's our baseline. We're not gonna get much better than that. Second launch was definitely a little bit better. Probably, I slipped the clutch a little bit better. Tires were probably a little warmer, so they had a little more grip. These are 200 tread wears, so it's a little bit of a grippier Kenda than like a normal Kenda, which is usually a 300 tread wear, but yeah, not much. So let's head back to the shop. Let's throw in these lower control arm brackets and let's see if we can improve upon that at all. Let's review this footage and see. I want to see in slow motion what's happening with the axle. All right, here's the first launch. Okay, so it does not separate at all. What I'm looking at is right here at the gap, and as soon as it takes the hit, you can see it compresses, the tire compresses into the fender well instead of separating and planting the wheel into the ground how it's supposed to, and that is resulting in the burnout. All right, before we get in to this install of the lower control arm brackets, I'm gonna show you guys a little trick on, if you guys, most likely, if you have a lowered Mustang and you don't know this, your rear axle is not centered. You can see mine is tucked a little bit on this side, and it's poking on this side. So that means my axle isn't in the center. I need to adjust my adjustable panhard bar and shorten it in order to pull the axle to the right. And that's gonna tuck in this side and push this side out. And I'm just gonna make a small adjustment until they're about even, because it's not right. The axle's not in the middle of the car. All right, now to adjust the panhard bar, all we're gonna need is this. Sorry if there's wind, but it's really hot outside right now. I need my fan. Good thing I went and ripped on this car before I decided to work on it, so now everything's all hot under here. But here's the panhard bar. This guy right here. I'm just gonna twist the adjustable knob until I can get the axle centered. Golly. Thing was tight. And once you have those two little lock nuts loose, you can just crank this thing a couple times. I'm not too sure which way it goes. I'm just gonna try one way and see if it makes it better. Use a little bit more. Still pretty close. It was literally rubbing the tire off onto the fender here, so that's not good. There's like rubber on my fender. So I'm gonna get started on the passenger side first. Yeah, this is why we can't hook. Look at these things. They're bald. Finely sanded. Oh yeah, quite a bit of rubber in here too. And spider webs. No spider webs in here. Orlando's gross. There's spiders everywhere. It's like literally a swamp. I can't keep any of my stuff away from bugs here. All right, so first order of business, we gotta pop the lower control arm off of here. All right, so here's a way I can explain this better to you now that we're under the car. Here is the lower control arm bracket that we're going to be installing. It's going to connect here, and it's going to drop. This is our BMR lower control arm that I've installed a little bit ago. This did improve traction, and it stiffened up the rear really nice. But the problem I'm having is, I've spoke about this before, but look at the angle of my lower control arm in relation to the axle. It's at an upward angle. That's not what you want. So what's happening is when the torque, here, my arm will be the lower control arm, meeting to the point of the axle with the leverage point being here. When the torque is applied to the axle from the engine, what's happening is the lower control arm, since it's already facing upwards, it's going to pull the axle up instead of planting it down. The ideal situation here would be, and this is the geometry of the Mustang when it's stock, this lower control arm is angled down because the axle is much further down. And so what happens when the torque is applied is it presses the axle into the ground, forcing the tire into the ground, creating more traction. So what's happening with me is, since I'm low and my geometry is incorrect, it's pulling the axle away from the ground, increasing tire spin. It's decreasing grip. So what this is going to do is this bracket is going to mount here, and there's 3 mounting points for your lower control arm. The first one is going to be the least aggressive. You're going to have the least initial bite. You're going to have the least bar angle, and the lowest one, you're going to have the most control arm angle, and so that's going to be the most aggressive biting point, and it's going to plant the tire into the ground the hardest. And what I'm hoping is this correction of moving the lower control arm down about 3 inches is going to offset what I've done by lowering the car, and it's going to correct the grip, and it's going to correct the suspension geometry. So this lower control arm bolt here is an 18. Go ahead, pop this off. I love Ford for installing these. They're the ends of all the nuts. A lot of them have these little stoppers, so you don't have to put a little wrench on the other side. Neat little Ford engineering that I appreciate, because it makes working a lot easier. Press this guy out of here and remove our first lower control arm. There we go. That's a lot of Loctite. Now our lower control arm is free. Oh, these are mirrored. So the passenger side is going to be facing like this, with the tall end towards the inside of the car. It comes with supplied hardware. To do the passenger side, you're going to take this small bolt, and it's going to slide into here like this. Now you don't want to over tighten this one, because you're gonna have to adjust this bracket to fit the other points. This is just a easy one to get started first. This is how it's gonna mount up, and here you should be able to see now the difference in bar angle that we're gonna get. Look at that. This is the most aggressive point, and we actually have a downward slope on the control arm, so that's perfect. Probably not going to run it on the most aggressive setting though, because it's going to keep my control arm pretty low to the ground. I am a little worried about ground clearance, because I'm on 18s, and not a lot of people with Mustangs are on 18-inch wheels, so I won't have much ground clearance with this. So I'll probably run it on the middle setting. like this. The hardware comes with 2 different length bolts. It comes with a longer bolt and a shorter bolt with a shank around it. Now, the shorter bolt is going to be the one mounting the control arm bracket to the chassis of the car. So we're gonna thread it in here. I believe the shank is in here for added structural integrity. Not really sure, but I'd assume so, since it fits in here so nicely. I'm gonna slide this guy through here. Try and line it up to get it through the other end. It's just a little hard. And throw this nut on the other end. It's also a 7/8. Torque this guy way down. I don't really know what the torque spec is. I'm just gonna... Good and tight, that's the torque spec. All right, so now we can tighten up this top bolt too. Get this top one nice and tight. Double check this one. Oh, that one's tight. So now we can set our control arm angle. Yeah, I'm gonna go, since my car is so low, this grease, I don't want this grease fitting being the lowest point on the car. If I have it on the lowest one, it's gonna be lower than the bracket. So I'm gonna do this middle one, just so my grease fitting is not exposed to the ground when it inevitably comes in contact with the ground. Ugh. And now we're going to take our longer bolt here and thread it through. It's a little tricky. Maybe we can get it in like this. Oh yeah. A little trick for you guys. If you're ever having trouble getting a bolt threaded through something like this, just spin it so you don't ruin your threads. Because it can ruin the threads if you just start banging it. I'm also using a little pry bar here to try and line it up a little better. There we go. That side is through, so we can throw our little nut on here. We're already almost done with the first side. This is pretty cool. Golly. There we go. That thing is tight. There we go, first side is done. All the bolts are tight. Let's check out the bar angle compared to the other side. So here we have this side. Slight downward slope on the middle setting. Ooh, get them. All right, here is the bar angle on this side. And here is the bar angle on the stock side. You can see it's slanted up, so it's working. The driver's side is going to be a little bit different than the passenger. Since we have our panhard bar connecting right here, we don't have a bolt that's going to connect to the top of the mount here. So what's going to happen is we're going to remove this bolt from the panhard bar. There we go. This slides out. And then this is going to join into the mount of the panhard bar inside. And they're going to be connected with the same bolt. Like so. So we thread that guy in here. And then throw our locking nut back on. Alright, got it hand started. You want to leave it loose so you can adjust like the last side. But aside from that, the procedure is going to be the exact same for this side. So I'm going to throw these 2 bolts in and see you guys when it's installed. Alright, so I got this side on. I'm gonna throw the wheel on now to see what our clearance is looking like. So let's see. Oh, not too bad. This is what I was talking about. Look at the clearance from the bottom of the control arm to the bottom of the tire. It's only like 2 inches. So that's what running 18s gets me. But I think that'll be enough clearance as long as I'm cautious about it. I already drive this car pretty cautiously since it's low. All right, and we're done. That was a pretty easy install, honestly. It only took about an hour with filming. So if I had just locked in and done this without filming, I probably could have done it in under an hour. Nice, straightforward install. That's why I love the Mustang. The installs are straightforward and simple, unlike this thing. This thing is a headache every time. Whew. Shoo-wee. All right, let's see what our clearance is looking like. Oh, not bad. I was expecting worse. All right, cool. So I'm gonna clean this up and it will be time for us to go do our second test with more traction now and see if this thing hooks a little better. All right, let's go test drive this rig. Hopefully this made a difference. Let's go see what difference this made. I might be imagining things, but the rear end does feel a little bit different. This is the real test. Let's see if I scrape leaving my... Yeah, I do. Couldn't even get... Took the words out of my mouth. I scraped before I could even say it. But, ow. I do have Steeda board slide plates under my car, so I'm not actually bottoming my car out when you hear that. I have aluminum rails down there, so those are what's sliding, so it's not actually damaging the car. So it sounds cringe, but it's not that cringe. See, I'm gonna romp the gas a little bit and see if it feels any different. It spun. It feels more, I don't know how to describe it. Ooh. I feel a difference. I might be crazy, but I feel a difference already. And it feels good. It feels like planted, but I don't know why, but the car feels more raked forward. Like I feel like the rear end is up higher now, even though it's not. I didn't change the ride height or anything. but I feel like the car is more forward facing, you know? If that makes sense. Yeah, I absolutely feel a difference now. Like, on the unevenness of the road, I feel the rear axle, like, I feel the suspension working in the rear more. Before, it felt like flat and lazy and not correct. I genuinely feel a difference now. Like, I feel the suspension working. If you can imagine that. It's really hard to put in words, the sensation, but if you drive a car enough, you feel the little intricacies, you can feel the way the arms are moving, and just by the way that the car is like rotating on the uneven surfaces of the road, I can feel the rear lower control arms working now. I can feel them articulating separately and like keeping the suspension of the axle straight. It's very interesting, but I like it. It feels a lot more planted. All right, so I'm coming out to the drift spot right now because I want to test it in drift as well. I have a theory that I'm gonna be able to feel the added grip from the traction arms, from the control arms, more in drift, because this car, this car has always had excellent side bite, like grip side to side in drift, but it's always had really bad forward bite. So I think the biggest difference I'm gonna feel is gonna be in drift. Yeah, it's gonna benefit the launch a little bit, but I don't think I have a good enough tire on here to really take full advantage of the benefits of that in the first place. Here, let's just try the launch. Let's practice the launch first. All right, so another burnout. That was kind of to be expected. As to be expected. All right. Let's warm the tires up with a quick little drift test. How about that? Oh man. This thing is a lot faster in drift. The initial clutch kick, I felt it like, and it like launched the car forward. Wow. That was pretty cool. Right off the clutch kick, it had so much forward bite. I've never felt that in this car. It almost felt like the 240. I have a on the 240, I have a very aggressive drift alignment. So the wheels are towed in a lot. So on the clutch kick, it goes and it like has a lot of initial bite. This just felt like that. This car has never had a bite like that. That felt really cool. All right, we got some warm tires. Let's try the launch again. Oh yeah, I felt it on that one. I definitely felt a traction improvement on that one. And these tires are bald, boys. I'm telling you, they're bald, so. That's impressive. Come here. Hello. I'm very impressed with the performance in drift. Yeah, it's definitely off the clutch kick, it is a lot, like, it has so much more forward bite. That feels great. Let's get out of here before you make people mad though. But in conclusion, guys, they work. Let me know in the comments if you want me to like come back and try some test launches with an actual tire. I can put on like a 265 Velino or something on the rear and maybe get a little better launch out of it. Can't see because of this guy. Parked in the way. What a chotch. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you guys want to see me get like an actual tire on the rear and see how hard I can get this thing to 60 foot, or just get it to launch, because that was major improvement. I actually feel the rear suspension planting and pushing the car forward. As far as launches, I'm just limited by tire, but I feel the suspension working now, so that's a step in the right direction. I need to take this thing back to the drag strip. I forget what we ran before. I think we ran like a high 13, which is not fast, but on a 245 stock 3 valve, not too bad, but it's not good. Let me know if you guys want to see me go back to the drag strip with an actual tire. Hooked. Wow, that was fast. I was expecting it to like spin to limiter in first, because that's what it usually does in first, but dang, this thing, it hooked. That was definitely the lower control arm brackets doing their thing. That was pretty cool. I almost missed second because it surprised me. Pretty cool. See if they scrape getting up here. No, he made it nice. Shoo-wee. Alright guys, that's gonna do it for this video. I appreciate you watching to the end. If you want to see me do this with some actual tire, some non-bald drift spares, let me know in the comments. And yeah, thanks for watching. Let's see what they look like. Oh, they're not even that close to the ground. I don't know what American Muscle was whining about. American Muscle was complaining that you're gonna be scraping them all the time. They're not even close.